is a presentation of KSL Sports. Hello, Cougar Nation.
Top of the key, triple. Richie Saunders, fourth three-pointer of the night. Massive make.
Every Monday night, we break down the Cougars' last game and look ahead to next week. Cougar Nation, brought to you by Central Bank. Here's BYU insider Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte on Utah's legacy home of the Cougars, KSL News Radio.
Good evening, Cougar Nation. Welcome on into your show, Cougar Nation. BYU basketball is in the Sweet 16. Oh, how sweet it is. Mitch Harper, Matt Baiamonte with you. We have got the phone lines open over the next hour. Folks, this hasn't happened in 14 years. You better load up the phone lines. 801-575-8255. We want to hear from you, your thoughts on this Sweet 16 run, and whether or not BYU can take down Alabama in the Sweet 16. But what a sweet feeling it is for BYU hoops, Matt.
It was an unbelievable night in Denver as they cling to life down the stretch against a furious Wisconsin comeback. Hey, I'm also open to hearing from those fans who went and just your experience at Ball Arena. It was an electric atmosphere. So whatever you want to talk about related to this excellent BYU basketball team, sound off. We want to hear from you because this show's for you.
BYU takes down Wisconsin 91-89 in the round of 32 to get to the Sweet 16. Let's break it all down in our takeaways.
Cougar Nation takeaways. Mitch and Matt analyze BYU's last week of play and what it means for the next week.
BYU beats Wisconsin 91-89. It was a crazy basketball game in which BYU saw a double-digit lead late in the half evaporate, and they get a much-needed stop on the final possession of the game. Mawat Mag comes up big. They clear the rebound. They hold on and get the win. The officials are not one of my two takeaways, but I'm sure it will be discussed during this hour. So, I don't think it was good by any stretch of the imagination. We can break that down further. My biggest takeaway, though, Mitch, was this team is so tough and so resilient. Maybe the most resilient team I've ever seen in my lifetime for BYU basketball, and that is a credit to Kevin Young. It's a credit to his coaching staff. It's a credit to these players. There was so much adversity in that game. It was preposterous, actually, some of the things that occurred. You have an ejection late in the game on a routine basketball play. Dawson Baker, which I thought he was fouled as the trap came, he's getting harassed to the degree which should not be allowed according to the rules. He tries to split the double, and his elbow catches a Wisconsin player in the groin, and somehow that results in an ejection. And that was crazy because I feel like if that doesn't happen, they win that game comfortably. But that was 2 free throws, bang, bang. Then they get a bucket, and they're right back in the game. Then you had 2 turnovers in the final couple minutes, too. Dallin Hall had a bad read to Richie that got intercepted for I think it ended up resulting in a offensive rebound and one situation. And then Yegor Demin missed an inbound pass to Trevin Nell. Think about that. That was all in the space of 2 to 3 minutes at the end of that game. And yet they found a way. What resilience?
It was resilience. And I did think after that flagrant 2, when Yegor hit the 3 to go up 11, I thought, game over. Dagger. They responded from the flagrant 2. This thing's a wrap. But, to your point, Wisconsin had a impressive effort to try to get back into the game. This was a wire-to-wire win for BYU. Such an impressive performance by the Cougars. I think my big takeaway, I brought him up just now, Yegor Demin is looking like the lottery pick folks thought he would be. Now, does he – I'm curious to see what his decision is after this year officially. I think
fans were yelling at the end of the game in the BYU section, 1 more year, 1 more year.
And, when you see the potential of this program, and whatever happens this week, we'll see what happens. I'm really – we'll dive into Alabama coming up a little bit later this show. But, this is year 1 for Kevin Young. And to get to the Sweet 16, it's an incredible accomplishment. But Yegor Demin is looking like every bit the prospect that – the magnitude of the recruit that he was when he signed with BYU and all the accolades and hype that he was receiving. And I think this is some of his best games in the NCAA tournament since early in the year when he was racking up Freshman of the Week honors. I think Yegor's doing an excellent job, and he's knocking down big shots from 3, and I think that is such a difference for BYU when he's able to hit long-distance shots and because we haven't seen it much in Big 12 play. We did not see that from Jaeger at all. So that's been a big difference for BYU and as they get ready for the second weekend of the NCAA tournament.
Another takeaway of mine, sort of to piggyback off yours, is Kevin Young is an unbelievable X's and O's coach.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think he's just an all-around great coach. But that Wisconsin game was a masterclass in game preparation, in-game adjustments, and situational awareness. Late in the game when things were unraveling, he calls a timeout on a broken play, and they get Richie Saunders to the free throw line to just settle the nerves. I thought that was a brilliant move by Kevin Young to have the timeout still, because you could have burned a couple others before that during the wave of things, and he kept that around until he needed it. And I think a move that he's made of late that's really helped Jaeger, to your point, develop, he's taken him off ball more. A lot of Big 12 play, Jaeger was the initiator offensively. That has changed. Now, he still does a lot of initiating as the point guard, but it feels like Dallin Hall has – remember the beginning of Big 12 play? Dallin was playing much more of the two off ball. That is switched, and I think that's helped Jaeger because if Jaeger has the ball in a late clock situation, he can still dribble and make something happen, but to take that pressure off him all the time, I think that is a significant reason why he's playing much better basketball right now. So Kevin Young, man, he's the real deal. He's a superstar in this profession. BYU's lucky to have him. He's an outstanding coach.
I did think, though, when you bring up Dallin Hall, that drive he had that came up short, miss, I don't think that was the right shot. He only had one shot before that the whole game. He went 0 of 2 in the game.
That was a late clock situation, right?
It was getting down to the end there, so he had to kind of make a decision. And I like that willingness to go get it, but I would have liked to seen ideally Richie Saunders. But, I mean, look, it's shot clock's expiring and it happens. But, I think another takeaway for me in this game, BYU, and we're breaking down BYU and Wisconsin, 91-89. The Cougs take down the Badgers. I love the shooting. BYU, 49% from the field. You keep that at, this team's going to be able to continue to go further and further in the NCAA tournament. We'll talk about BYU and Bama coming up, but we got to take a break. On the other side, we'll get to some of your phone calls. 801-575-8255. Central Bank voted best bank and mortgage in Utah Valley. Visit them online at cbutah.com.
How many things affect your life as much as slow traffic and bad weather? Listen tomorrow morning for Traffic and Weather Together every 10 minutes on the 9s on KSL News Radio.
We're celebrating a berth to the Sweet 16. BYU taking down Wisconsin 91-89, and we're taking your calls 801-575-8255. You can answer our question, how confident are you BYU can beat Alabama and advance to the Elite Eight? Or if you just want to react to the game, give us your thoughts. Hey, if you want to sound off on those bad officials, I'm open to that too.
Gosh, that was bad.
I'm
sorry to derail you, but
no,
that was bad. And anyone that's listening to this show, I feel pretty confident there have not been many shows, whether Cougar Sports Saturday or this one, where we point to the officiating. We didn't even bend the knee to the Tony Padilla stuff after the Utah game.
You're right.
We did not cave to that on this show. I'm proud of that. Granted, he is going to be reffing at regional. I don't know which one. We will keep our antennas up.
I think he's been good this year.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem
he's
with
been
Tony.
fine. But I feel like that was terrible officiating. Absolutely inexcusable. The technical on Mag just pointing to the scoreboard.
The technical on Wisconsin,
where
on
the
guard
bench.
Post-game says they couldn't even tell me what someone said.
Yeah. I mean, what is going on here? I thought that officiating crew was poor. And Kevin Young kind of pointed to it. It's tricky for the coaches to critique refs because they could face fines.
Yes.
But it is always interesting to me. Officials could have a big role in NCAA tournament games because when you're in the Big 12, you kind of just know what you're getting. You know they're going to let a lot go. They're never going to call a charge. It's going to be physical. And you're going to go, how are they not calling that? Kevin Young's even had to learn that.
Yep.
When you have officials that don't ref the same way like the Big 12, and they're not familiar with BYU and and BYU style, and that's tricky. So then BYU has to kind of in-game adjust to feel out how the officials are calling it, which might be a lot different than how they played week after week in the Big 12.
It's a great point, and I thought there were a couple of moments that really frustrated me watching it. Obviously, the flagrant foul, which we referenced. I know what the rule says. I just think it's complete bullcrap, Mitch. That was a basketball play. That happens all the time. you get trapped in the corner, and you try and pivot out of the trap. When people are bodied up against you, sometimes you're going to get hit somewhere in your face or in your groin. That, to me, a flagrant 2 ejection. If they wanted to go flagrant 1, I still would have been mad, but fine, whatever, okay? But to eject Dawson Baker and to swing the momentum at that point in the game and to say that it was clearly indisputable.
Quote, was clearly not incidental contact.
Yes.
To use those words, like,
it was.
I don't know if it's clearly.
Yeah, it was not clearly not incidental.
Yeah.
It was clearly incidental.
Right.
The dude was trying to break a trap.
Yeah.
That happens all the time.
I thought that was ridiculous. And Dawson took the high road, and I even asked him, if he got any explanation. He's like, I had to go. Like, I mean, they didn't really explain to me. But
and that's another thing. Why do they have to go? I like how college football on the targeting eject, they can stay
They
on the
changed
field.
that rule, and I agree with you on that. This was Dawson Baker after the game and how they're pushing aside any officiating and just focusing on chasing a title.
I mean, obviously we got a bunch of self-confidence in ourselves and this team, this group, and we've had that before the tournament, and nothing short of a championship. I mean, we got a bunch of great dudes. We got veteran guys. We shoot the ball. We defend really well, and so all those things make for a championship team.
Dawson Baker's absence, too, was significant because I thought his handle, like he was taking Tanjay off the dribble and getting to the rim. I thought he had a really nice game. Baker did 8 points, 3 of 5 from the field. I mean, he had some stretches there where he was guarding Tanjay, and I know John Tanjay, 37 points for him. He was every bit the All-American that he was billed to be. Difficult spot for Baker and the whole BYU team, but I thought he did a serviceable job just trying to make it hard. But a guy that did probably the best job at the end in a game that was offensive fireworks back and forth, particularly in that second half, BYU gets a defensive stand.
That was a great defensive stand. Mawut Mag, the transfer from Rutgers, coming up big, and here was Mag talking about that final defensive stop.
Tanjay, yeah, he's a phenomenal player. You know, his game dude does the talking. He had a lot of points, and I just wanted to make it difficult as possible for him. I knew he was going to come down here in full of steam. I didn't want to give him a foul because he was a double bonus. But I also wanted him to shoot contested 2. I was going to live with that. I didn't want to foul him and bail him out because he made multiple N1s. So I just wanted to live with him making a tough shot.
Smart defensive player. That was a great breakdown from Mag on that final play. I thought Tanjay, obviously, he's going to want that one back. I don't know why he didn't go for the 3. I felt like, if he would have gotten a call in that situation, I might have lost my mind.
I was bracing for it. I thought the whistle was going to come.
He got the benefit of the whistle way too much in that game, in my opinion. He was intentionally leaning into players and then falling on the ground to sell the call. And maybe that's just a smart player because he was getting the call and he's going to the free throw line. But my goodness. And on that final play, I think if he had just tried to get a good shot, he would have ended up with a better look because he leaned into Mag thinking he'd get the call and then stumbled and then put up this weird – anyways, it all worked out in the end. But smart by Mag to say, hey, we can live with it too. I think that's really good work from him. And there's a reason he's such a great defender when you hear a breakdown like that because don't give up the 3. Don't let him get to the rim, of course, but we can live with it too. And he forced a difficult shot. And BYU got the win, man.
Mawut Mag, he's going to be going back to New Jersey where he played college basketball at Rutgers for 4 years. He's going to be going back this week, and I talked to him about that. You can listen to that full interview on the Cougar Tracks podcast feed. It was really insightful stuff from Mawut, and it just kind of peeled the curtain a little bit. Those interviews take place in the post-game locker room, just the energy, the excitement. And I thought what was cool, too, Matt, is that college basketball is so transactional these days. And I think sometimes it's challenging to fans because they don't know who's going to be on a team, who's going to be staying, who's going to be going. But I think that these guys, in talking with the players after the game, they understood that there was a little bit of lack of history for BYU to get to the Sweet 16. And look, they're saying all the right things, that they are not done. They want to continue and get to the distance. They believe it, and as they should. BYU looks every bit the part of an elite team in college basketball right now. They're playing outstanding. But I think that it was just cool that they understood that what this means to the BYU fan base and to Cougar Nation to get to this second weekend. It means a lot. Only the third time since seeding began in 1979 in the NCAA tournament that BYU is in the second weekend. And I think what's more meaningful with this one is that it's the beginning of something great. When it was Jim or Fredette, it was the end of an era where you're building from 1-25 all the way up to 2011. This is the beginning with Kevin Young, and that's pretty exciting.
Can we shout out one critical stat? And I'm going to pat myself on the back for this, but on Cougar Sports Saturday, when we do a pregame for basketball games, we have a segment called the 3-Pointer where we give you deep dive stats that can impact the game, bold predictions. 15 of 16 from the free throw line. I thought they'd shoot better than 85%. They go above 90. I mean, that was the difference. If you miss Keba, 2 of 3, that's huge. Richie Saunders, 4 of 4. Trey Stewart, 2 of 2. Like, unlikely guys making big free throws and big plays in that game. That was critical. They did all the little things right for the most part in that game, and they ended up needing every single point they could get.
And, it was interesting, too, in the post-game locker room, asking Kate if it was a physical game. He's like, no, not really. And I think that played to BYU's advantage a bit.
Yep.
Sometimes these physical teams give some headaches to BYU. Wisconsin, I don't want to say they were soft, but they were just not.
They were finesse.
They were finesse, yeah. They were a finesse team, particularly in the front court. Their bigs were pretty good. Kroll kind of was a tone setter early to keep them around while BYU jumped out to a hot start. But BYU matched up incredibly well with Wisconsin. And honestly, Matt, once again, they're the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament. BYU had the better athletes. They had the better talent. They had the better coaching staff, too. All around, BYU had a better overall team and product and maybe program going forward than Wisconsin. And I just think that sometimes in the past, and I know it was asked to Trey Stewart earlier in the week, getting ready for that Wisconsin game, of sometimes BYU would fall in awe to a logo in the past, but maybe when they're in the WCC or Mountain West. That doesn't happen anymore.
No.
I think that you've seen the benefits of that day in, day out grind, the stuff that BYU fans got told, well, if you played in a real league, that's what would happen. Well, they're seeing the benefits now because they get in these tournaments and they're not like, oh my gosh, how do you compete with the likes of Wisconsin? So impressive showing. We're taking your phone calls, 801-575-8255. Get on board with us. Share your thoughts on how confident you are BYU is going to make a run and take down Alabama in the Sweet 16. News, traffic, and weather next, and then we'll get to what's trending up and trending down for BYU basketball. And spoiler alert, it's a lot of trending up. More after this.
Be ready for BYU Game Day. Download the KSL News Radio app to stream BYU games, plus breaking news during the week. That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Cougar Nation, we need to hear from you. 801-575-8255. Tell us your feelings about being in the Sweet 16. Share your memories of when BYU got to the Sweet 16 in 81. Share your memories in 2011. What does this mean to you as a BYU basketball fan? And can they take down the Alabama Crimson Tide? Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte with you. We've been holding it down every single Monday night throughout the basketball and football seasons here on Cougar Nation. Hopefully we continue this thing, Matt. Hopefully next week's not the last week.
I have a hard time seeing it, but this team is – let's put it this way. This team, of the 3 teams that have made the Sweet 16, this is, in my opinion, far and away the best of those 3.
Yeah, I agree. Because
but the path is hard,
yes.
Really hard.
Well, and I think to your point, think about the other 2 teams. They had a superstar, the college basketball's best player. And I think that's a factor into why many BYU fans probably felt that the NCAA tournament was just so difficult. Because if you didn't have the best player in the country, you don't win in this thing. And, Kevin Young comes in and has a roster where he retains a so-called glue guy in Richie Saunders, and now makes him an all first-team Big 12 guy, and he's the tater tot king. He's the talk of the country. Or Ida continues to tweet about him on X every single moment. They can't get enough.
It's one of the great NIL deals of all time.
And it all started from a gentleman in Governor Spencer Cox's cabinet tweeting out, I'm enjoying a plate of tater tots in honor of Richie Saunders, whose great-grandfather invented the tater tot. That was on March 10th, and ever since then, it's just been securing the bag for Richie and becoming the tater tot king. It's so much fun. Maybe we'll dive into that a little bit more, and also BYU getting ready to take on Alabama. Let's dive into what's trending with BYU Hoops.
Cougar Nation, trending. What's trending up and what's trending down this season.
Let's start with the good stuff, trending up. And also, where are you at, Cougar Nation? Get on that phone line, 801-575-8255. Who went to the game? I want to hear your experience from Ball Arena.
What was your experience like?
It was sensational. It was electric. That was the first March Madness game I've ever attended. It exceeded my expectations because when I sat down at the start of the Michigan-Texas A&M game, I did feel sad that there wouldn't be this true back and forth because it was hard to tell who was rooting for who. I sat next to a guy who is an Indiana Pacer fan and a Hoosier fan who just flew out because he wanted to watch some hoops.
Wow.
Had no rooting interest in the game. And I'm sure there were a lot of others that bought tickets in advance, hoping their team would. I would never do that. I think you're nuts for trying to project going to a region.
Like BYU fans, they're the one fan base that actually can because Thursday, Saturday is it. So you've only got 4 options. But any other fan base, you're nuts. You've got 8 options in front of you.
It was hard to tell what would the vibe be. But when that BYU Wisconsin game came around, there was a lot of Wisconsin fans. There were a lot of BYU fans. And I think some of those neutral fans picked sides, too, because there was people in front of me. I sat 10 rows up from the final shot. So I was right there as Mag was. I couldn't see you because I think the basket was between where you were sitting and where I was sitting. But when Tanjay went up for that final shot, everyone had their phones out, and it was pretty freaking electric. It was awesome.
It was pretty spectacular. I was sitting on the press row.
You had the BYU section right behind you, right?
Yes. So all the stars were out. Danny Ainge was probably mean mugging me when I took a photo of him just to document the celebrity sighting. And it will probably be the first time in my life, and maybe I'll have another chance too, but it'll probably be the one time I've got seats closer to the court than Ryan Smith.
Yeah, that's never happening again. Never.
Thank you, NCAA, for actually giving the media still a courtside seat. Thank you very much. We get the Hollywood seats once in a while at the NCAA tournament. That's why it's an amazing event for the media. But it was a lot of fun. And I will say that going through that finish, I'm thinking, no way. BYU, you can't blow this.
They were the better team.
You cannot blow this game. This would live in infamy if you lost this game. And they done.
It would have been significantly more heartbreaking than the last Sweet 16.
Oh yeah, that would have just been absolute heartbreak for BYU. I mean, that would have been some demons would have just been haunting BYU had they lost that game because they were in control. They were clearly the better team too, and it was the right outcome. I mean, it just was because BYU is a better team. I think they're a more talented team, and they got that one defensive stop. It is interesting how an offensive game like it was 91-89, and it comes down to defense, and what Mag gets it done. I think he's my nod for trending up. I just feel like someone like him, a role guy, that he maybe been a little bit quiet. His impact in past few games, I think that's just huge boost of confidence and momentum for him. And he heads back to New Jersey this weekend to the East Coast. And Mag's been awesome. I remember you and I talking about him in November, just thinking, what's his role going to be? Like, what do you expect out of this guy? I'll admit, I had no feel for that because I just thought he's not going to fit into this rotation. And then Richie Saunders getting a lacerated lip on the opening play against Wyoming, that changed everything for him. I mean, it was kind of a freak deal that opened the door for Mawit Mag to really show to Kevin Young, yes, you can utilize me. And then during Big 12 play, they made the change to him in the starting lineup. BYU's lost only 4 games since that. Utah, Arizona,
Cincy,
Houston. And then Houston in the Big 12 tournament. That's it. Every other game they've won. But what Mag has been significant to BYU's success this year.
Trending up for me is the Tater Tot King himself, Richie Saunders. You talk about those teams that went to the Sweet 16 with Player of the Year caliber guys in Jimmer and Ainge. Richie is not on that tier, but what he did against Wisconsin was every bit the performance of a great college basketball player. 25 points, 7 rebounds, 6 of them offensive, makes all 4 of his free throws, 3 of 4 from 3. He's a go-to player. He can be relied on in clutch situations. If that doesn't make you a great number 1 option, then I don't know what is. He's not Cooper Flagg. He's not in the class of even Tanjay, guys that are, had a case for Player of the Year, but he's in that next tier. And if you have a great supporting cast and a really high-level number 1, you could do what BYU's doing. So I think I think fans maybe will look at this team and say it's so deep and it's the depth. And I think that's maybe a little disservice to how good Richie's been as the number one. We cannot discount how great of a season Richie Saunders has had as being the number one offensive option for this team. He's delivered. When the scouts started to focus to him in Big 12 play, he delivered for the most part, and now he's delivering in the tournament that matters the most, the NCAA tournament, March Madness. Richie's doing it, man. And I just think when you have a guy like Richie who is so good on both ends of the floor, if he's going to play like this, and then the role players are going to do their thing. We talked about Trevin Nell on Cougar Sports Saturday, 14 for him. Nearly 10 and 6 for Keita. Yegor double figures. You get that. You can compete with anyone left in the field, maybe outside of Houston.
And think about, with Richie Saunders, too, that number one status didn't really emerge until Big 12 play.
Yep.
When Kevin Young brought it up, said that's going to be the challenge for him, being the number one team or player on an opponent's scouting report. Trending down, you know what? We'll give him a pass. Like maybe you could say, finish the job, like put the foot on the gas and don't let a team get back in it, and make that thing scarier than it needed to be. But otherwise, you're in Sweet 16.
To me, I don't think that's a valid comment because I feel like the referees took that opportunity from BYU.
Fair.
I feel like, I feel like if the refs had done their thing and been fair, it would have never got to that point. Let's take a break. We'll wrap up the show, take some more calls on the other side, and Cougar Nation is brought to you by Central Bank. 133 years of trusted banking service, modern technology, and fast lending decisions.
Cougar fans, use this radio station tomorrow morning for important news updates. Listen to Utah's most important radio station tomorrow morning from 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Cougar Nation, and it's always sponsored by Central Bank. We appreciate Central Bank being on board with us the entire season. We hope to have 2 more shows. Actually, that'd be what? Maybe 3 more shows? I'm thinking this out through here, but hopefully we got an extended period.
If they get to the Natty, it would take over the show.
Yeah. So I'm hoping this thing continues on at a minimum. Guaranteed 1 more show after this week. But if the Cougs get through this weekend, we'll continue to have these shows. And we will be in Newark, New Jersey. We'll have coverage out there from Newark, BYU, and Alabama. Tip-off at 5:09 p.m., which will only be on 102.7 FM and 1160 AM. Keep that in mind. No online stream on KSLNewsRadio.com. The KSL News Radio app, the KSL Sports app. Got some emails this weekend about that. Just remember, it's over the air. It's because of the NCAA, so just a programming note there. BYU and the Crimson Tide, Matt, number 6 versus number 2. Kind of similar vibes to 2011, the last visit to the Sweet 16. Get by the second round in Denver. Then what awaits you? A trip in another couple time zones against an SEC team. 2011, they faced Florida, a 2 seed. This year, it's a 2 seed in Alabama, the number 1 scoring offense in college basketball. It's going to be a high-powered offensive game. What can BYU do to pull the upset and take down the Crimson Tide?
They just got to shoot the ball well. I think it's that simple. Alabama will likely score north of 80 points in this game. But this is the type of matchup that I feel like favors BYU. They're not a good defensive team. They'll be the worst defense they've seen this postseason. And I think that bodes well. It was clear to me in that Wisconsin game that BYU felt insanely comfortable. And Kevin Young even talked about that post-game. He said, when we looked at the film, we felt like we could score. That wasn't going to be a problem. And I feel like that's going to be the same takeaway here is we're going to be able to score on these guys. Alabama's best player, Mark Sears, he's small. Dallin Hall and Yegor, that is a mismatch for BYU on the offensive end. They'll be able to do whatever they want against Mark Sears. And they've got wings on the perimeter that I don't think are all that athletic. Is it Grant Nelson or Nielsen?
Grant Nelson.
Grant Nelson, banged up, good player.
He did return against St. Mary's, got back into the starting lineup.
But there's no way he's 100%. And even at 100%, I think he's a really high-level college player, but he's not an athletic freak. We're not talking Cooper Flagg here by any stretch of the imagination. I just like the way that BYU's trending. They're winners of 11 of their last 12. Alabama, coming into the tournament, had a losing record, 4-5 in their last 9. And then I also think, too, this can't be discounted. BYU is playing loose. The monkey is off the back, to quote Steve Young. take the monkey off the back. That happened against VCU. From here on out, they're loose, but yet confident. Whereas Alabama, I think there is pressure there with the seed. I think there's pressure there with expectations. They were in the Final Four last year. Can they repeat that? Because in a lot of sections of college basketball, people thought Alabama improved the roster from last year. And so the expectation is Final Four at a minimum, get further. I just think pressure is an underrated component to college sports. We're not talking about pros here. You know, I just finished watching the Court of Gold documentary on Netflix where USA won the gold. Those dudes, they eat, drink, and sleep professional basketball. They can handle pressure. They can handle expectations. It's different at the college level, man, and all the pressure's on Alabama. BYU is playing free and loose, and I think that benefits them tremendously.
Alabama has some athletes. They do have some good players. The freshman, LeBaron Philon, is a all-SEC freshman team selection. Really good player, 6'4", 177 pounds. It's interesting when you look at Alabama, too. Bad defense statistically, but then you adjust it for the strength of their schedule. They've got the number one strength of schedule in college basketball. 5 of their 6 losses since the calendar turned to 2025 are against teams that are still in the Sweet 16. So when they lose, it's to good teams. BYU is a really good team too. But, you know, Alabama is an excellent offense. I mean, they are so good. And it's interesting with Nate Oates, their head coach, his Noah's Ark that he was involved with, I think him and Bennett when he was at Virginia, that got carried over to BYU, and Mark Pope was there. The Noah's Ark, the analytics thing in the Marriott Center Annex, really heavy into analytics. I mean, Nate Oates, and I think Kevin Young too. I mean, these are 2 coaches. What I like about this matchup is that it's 2 head coaches that are on the cutting edge of basketball. They're a couple steps ahead of everyone else right now. I believe Kevin Young's ahead of the pack.
No doubt.
Even though he's a 1-year college coach, he's got a support system and his knowledge. He's ahead of the curve when it comes to trends in basketball. Man, I think the coaching matchup's going to be awesome in this game. I honestly, Matt, I think this is going to be a game where both teams maybe hit 100. I just think the offense is going to be elite, and the tempo is going to be off the charts. It's going to come down to the defense, but I do think that Alabama, their depth is pretty good. It's not quite BYU good in terms of the willingness to go 10, 11 guys, but they had 6 players scoring double figures against St. Mary's. They got guys that can fill it up as much as BYU can. You just wonder if Alabama, they've been at this stage, like the second weekend, the Final Four. Is BYU feeling like, okay, great year. We're legends now. We're already arrived. Is this enough? Like, I know they're saying the right things. They want more, but Alabama's been to this stage where BYU hasn't.
I do feel like in a close game, I give the edge to BYU because I believe in their ability to get a stop or 2 in a sub 2-minute situation where I'm not confident that Alabama can consistently in those situations. BYU has so many actions and so many players they can rely on. So it's a fascinating matchup. I think the key to BYU in this game is you have to start strong again. I loved what Dallin Hall said post-game in the win against Wisconsin. He said BYU got after Wisconsin early. Here's Dallin Hall talking about their start against the Badgers.
Yeah, I thought we came out and punched them. We went on some runs, and they went on some runs, and that's basketball, but we always responded. So I love our fight, and I love what we're able to do.
They need to do that again because Alabama is such a good offensive team. If they don't start well, they could be looking at a double-digit deficit. And that's BYU has not played super great in that situation this year. Went down a lot, finding their rhythm and going on big runs. So starting early is going to be important for them. It
definitely is, and I think that Richie Saunders has got to be a superstar. He's got to have another 25-point game.
Yep.
I think BYU's got to shoot around 50%, 48, 50%. It's got to be a high clip.
Yep.
Alabama, they will get 90. It's going to happen. I just think that their offense, that's what they do. I mean, everyone they play, and they've played a great schedule, like I said. And I feel confident BYU can keep up and score a lot of points, but they've got to be getting the shots falling. Trevin Knell has got to be really good for BYU. I always feel good when he is knocking down his threes and he gets to double figures. BYU seems to win quite often when Trevin Knell is shooting the ball at a high clip. He was excellent against Wisconsin. He finished with 14 points, 5 of 9 shooting from the field and 4 of 6 from 3. So it's going to be the whole group has got to be excellent. This is not one of those games where I feel like you got a wide margin for error. I feel like Wisconsin and VCU, you had margin for error. And BYU is a good enough team where they can overcome errors. They're not just like you have to be absolutely perfect, but I do believe that Alabama's offense is as good as advertised, and they are highly efficient. And I think that BYU cannot afford to have some 4 or 5 minute lull where you have a scoring drought and you're turning the ball over. Now, granted, Alabama, their profile does not suggest they generate turnovers. That's nice. BYU against Wisconsin, a team that doesn't generate turnovers either, Jaeger was 8-1 assist-to-turnover ratio. You have another night like that from Jaeger, you're going to be in a great spot to win this game. But I just feel like the experience, too, in this weekend, Nate Oates is getting Alabama to a level where they are annual contender to win it all. And you would have never thought that with Alabama hoops. This is a big-time program now. I kind of lean Alabama a little bit, but I just think BYU is going to be right there at the end, though. I think this is a toss-up game. This is going to be an excellent high-level college basketball game.
Going bold. I like BYU by 8. I don't think it'll be – I mean, it's going to be close. It's not going to be comfortable, but I don't think it's going to come down to the final possession. I think BYU, they ride the momentum. Their offense is playing good hoops, and I like the matchup in sense of BYU can hang with teams that can score.
Coverage from Newark coming up this week on KSLSports.com and the KSL Sports app. We'll talk to you this week from Newark.